Hi guys and welcome. I am the Imperishable, and on today's episode I'm having a look at the Tomb King dragons, kind of different ways you can build them, how to kind of use them, and talking about ways we can spend those last few points on either maybe a magic weapon, certain other weapons, and potentially other things you can add in to kind of buff them up potentially. We were looking at kind of the traditional builds we're having a look at, and potentially some if you're going for that double Tomb King dragon, maybe try and get as much T6 as possible, because that's one list I kind of looked at because I thought it was quite interesting. And then obviously looking at the cult side and having a look at potentially looking at double dragon in the cult, but I don't really know how I feel about it. But let's have a look at our first dragon. So, starting off, I'm going to go for the most kind of basic dragon, the one that we see over, the one that at the very start of the edition seemed really overpowered because nothing can kill it. So, it is obviously a Tomb King that is on a neck of bone dragon. So, I've seen some people potentially look and talk about potentially using a War Sphinx instead of the dragon, but for 20 extra points, you get fly, and that's just enough is really good. It's just so much better in my opinion. You got the move ability, you can hide behind your stuff and jump over. You're not a slow moving target, etc. I just think there are so many extra bonuses from using the dragon over the War Sphinx, which is really sad because the model's really awesome, but I just think you don't usually see the War Sphinx because of the dragon's better, but then also outside of character choice, it is a lot better just having a Necro Sphinx. So that's kind of a basic setup kind of thing. I would look to grab a shield for this person because if we go to our first magic item, it is probably one of the best items in the game, kind of pushing towards puppet and kind of falcon horn level. I think everyone can really agree with it, is the Armour of Ages. And what this does is it's a light armour, so that's why we're getting that shield, because we have to use the light armour part to get the benefit. So we're going to be on a 5-up. And you'll see we'll get to a triple save of 5-up. In addition, enemies must re-roll successful rolls to wound against the wearer. So this is phenomenal. Okay, so it makes that kind of other beat stick versus other kind of dragons that are also just strength 6. They have to re-roll them because we are T6. It makes in like little bits of shooting pointless trying to get them. So it's just something that can really survivable. And also it's those kind of killing blow or monster slaying attacks that you see from like the Bretts. It makes them a lot less likely to happen. So that's our first point. So that's 50 points. And then your next 30 points is what we see everywhere, is Talisman of Protection. So far we are a T6, 9 wound dragon, because we get +1 toughness, +5 wounds. Tomb King, as you see here, +5 wounds, 5 attacks itself. It's really good because when you use My Will Be Done, it does also boost up the weapon skill you go for. So it's now, do you do with either this extra 20 points of magic items and what else? So obviously we need a weapon. So there's kind of 2 choices you can go down. Either go down either like a flail or a great weapon, because once again, when you get into combat, you're kind of accepting that most things that get into combat with dragons have at least AP2. So you don't really care about having only a 5-up save. It's all about having this double save, 5-up ward, 5-up regen. But it's again what you kind of want. If you go for the flail, you get that strength 7 -2 for the first round of combat, but it's not fight, strike, last. But obviously, if you keep staying there, you're staying at 5-up, strength 5, but you also get to keep the AP2. Great weapon's just a really good choice, just because it makes you a strength 7 all the time, -2. You say you're fighting last, your initiative is 4, so it's not a major difference. You can buff yourself up by D3, you can charge, so you can get to initiative 7 with a dragon when charging in. It could really kind of big it up. But the idea of this Tomb King isn't to do loads and loads of combat, it's potentially actually just to be 400, and this will probably be your general, about a 500 point model that just doesn't die. So what I want to have a look up is these extra magic items for 20 points. Okay, what can you go? So something that we've kind of seen, Sword of Might. So you get strength 6 -1 all the time, and magic attack. So it does mean stuff like the Green Knight going into it doesn't really favour. So this is something I do quite like, because the Green Knight is just a way to stop kind of all these big beasties. Because they're like, okay, cool, you're not going to win here, you can't hurt me, etc. And you just keep this massive dragon up. Strength 6 -1 isn't too bad. Another one, and it's probably one of my favourite weapons in the game, is the Biting Blade. It does keep you at strength 5, but -2 magic attacks armor vein 1 is a nice little thing for only 15 points. So those are kind of two options you go for. If you go for one of them, you obviously don't take the Grey Weapon. But if you don't, I would probably say go for the Grey Weapon, so you're Strength 7, -2 all the time. It then goes down for these extra bits here. You could potentially look to give a Lodestone just to make it MR1. Personally wouldn't. I think the way to kind of look at it is potentially this Potion of Toughness. So it's 20 points. And what it does for your turn, and unfortunately your turn only, you can get you can get D3 toughness. So you can get up to T9 on your turn. So if you're charging and thinking, okay, I'm going to try and hit something really hard, they've got some Strength 6 attacks back. I know it gets rerolled, but I can make it basically use it. They can't hurt me. So this is where you use it on your go turn. Okay, it's really annoying until the end of the turn. I really wish you could use it potentially in your opponent's turn. You pop it before they charge into you, because obviously you're popping it when you're charging or you're already in stage mode. But it's a really good way of just protecting yourself. And unfortunately, there's nothing really else to go for. So a nice build, just a bit of a tankiest toughness build. You go for this, and then you take a great weapon. So 461 points for a dragon, which is, I think, is probably one of the toughest dragons to bring down. You've got triple save, you're re-rolling wounds to wound me kind of thing. So basically all minuscule stuff doesn't help. So that's a really good thing. So that's one dragon, okay? That's kind of your normal two dragons. So depending on the route you want to go down, you even now need to think about how can I buff this guy up. And the easiest way of buffing it up is either having a Royal Herald nearby with the BSB, not even with a BSB, just on potentially a Skeleton Chariot. All he's got to do is, if he's in combat, and let's say your Tomb King's in combat versus that monster slaying sword or whatever, you just go, okay, I'm going to take the hits with the Royal Herald because he's got the special ability, Sworn Protector. So should a monarch suffer a hit whilst within 3, you may transfer it over to him. So this is what you're kind of seeing in those big, horrible blocks of chariots in skeleton infantry cohorts, and you're using these to just jump across. So that's one way of looking to protect him, is with a Royal Herald. And I would say a chariot skeleton just keep running about. This is really good if potentially you're going for another dragon, a different type of dragon, which is more killy, and rather than the survivability with the Armour of Ages, because anything that is going to hurt him, you just chuck on the Royal Herald. And on the Royal Herald, that's where you give him the Warding Splint, so he's got triple save potentially, or you give this Royal Herald the Talisman Protection and potentially Armour of Meteoric Iron, so he's always got triple 5s. And that's a way to really keep him alive. And then whatever's going on in the Tomb King, you just chuck it to the Royal Herald. Another one, something to just keep in mind, is probably just having a Mortuary Priest, even if it's just a level 1 nearby, just to keep out 55 points to keep adding wounds to them back in. So over the game, you can get, we play 6-round games, you can get them up to. So those are some just protection pieces. So if I look to get rid of both of these, and keep this here. So I was looking at potentially doing double Tomb King Dragon, and then in my rare spots, double Necrotic. So I've got 30 wounds with 2/6 that all fly, all with kind of good output. So another type of Tomb King Dragon you can go for is more of a kind of combat-y. So as I say, if you've got double it, go for the Warding Splint. So if you're going double dragon, one dragon, your general probably has Armour of Ages and then Talisman Protection. Your other dragon is always going to have the Warding Splint because you want to have this 5 order. It's the only really way to get a good save on him, bar Elemental Wizard for the Ramparts, but you want to charge with these dragons potentially, so you don't want to lock yourself down. And then also potentially the Casket, but it's only a 6 order. This is just a bit of safety. So you've got 65 points left that you can potentially look to use. I think the only proper item you can go for is good attacking item. Flail Skulls, I love the idea of it. Being Strength 8 all the time, multi-wounds 2, phenomenal. But this AP1 isn't going to help, and if you don't get Plague of Rust off, your versus kind of big monsters or big multi-wound stuff, you're not going to go through them. So I think what you go for is just a simple Ogre Blade. So you've got 2 dragons, you give them the... you don't need to even give him shield because he's got to take the 4 up from here. And you run it like that. So this is the way I was looking at kind of a double dragon with a priest. Because you need level 1, you just need to have it kind of thing to be your Hierophant. You kind of just hide this mortuary priest. The idea is you've got 2 very tough, very strong dragons that have a lot of output. So this Tomb King is just really hard to die. 9 wounds, re-rolling all wounds. So as you say, those monster slayings, you can get rid of them. If you go into stuff with loads like shooting, so big thing here is potentially like poison shooting. So versus most poison shooters, it's going to be triple save, 555. Obviously, if you're looking at the goblin block and you were an idiot and you shut yourself in a position where you can get itchy nuisance or you get plague of rusted, blah blah blah. Still enough save, and any of those wounds that isn't a poison, you're forcing them. It's going to be, you need a double 6 to wound me. It's just really great. And what's also great with the Bone Dragon, and if you combine this with the casket, is they've got Cloud of Dust. So what this does is it's a -1 to hit and shooting. So versus that goblin block, that if you're staying away long range kind of thing, they've only got an 18-inch range kind of thing. You're getting them a -1 on this already. So that's really great. Casket's another -1. Long range is another -3. So does that even mean they can poison because they go above a 6+ potentially? So there's ways you can really protect these, especially versus those poison blocks. So that's your kind of route if you're going for the double Tomb King Dragon. Obviously, stuff that we're kind of seeing at the moment is, in Grand Army anyway, is the use of a Tomb King in this kind of setup. I'd say that last 20 points, you kind of choose what you want, but using a High Priest on a Dragon, level 4. And I personally, if you're going for a Necro and Bone Dragon, you have to go Illusion. Personally, it may seem really cool to have Elementals and Necromancers running about, but this is the thing that you want to protect the most. And I was playing with this at the tournament. It's, if this dies, game over. Yes, you've got Leadership 10, Tomb King to build up, but constantly rolling those things is a massive thing. And if, as a Tomb King player, if we lose our magic, it can really hurt. And also, in Illusion, there are some phenomenal spells that we can use to our advantage and kind of control what happens. That's why I really like Illusion. That's why I always play it in my cult, or CSA at my +7. But what we're going to go for, straight away, we've got to protect myself, so I'm going for the Warding Splint. Simple as that. I'm then going for Lore Familiar, because Illusion has a couple dead spells that don't really help us. And we've got 35 points left. And this is where you can kind of pick and choose what you want to chuck on. Okay, you could try and choose a certain thing. You can maybe go for even something like a Spell Eater Axe. I know it's only Strength 3 -1, but Magic Resist 2 is potential. Probably wouldn't. This thing I think everyone goes for, and as you say, is the Serpent Staff. Once again, you could go for Skull, Strength 6, but the -1, and in this army, there'll be no way to get extra minuses, so you want to make sure you minus that. But the Serpent Staff is just phenomenal. Strength +2. So I get up to Strength 5, -2 each time. So I'm Strength 5 -2. I've only got 2 attacks. Magic attacks, poison attacks, a bit weird with poison attacks. But the idea is you choose Lore Familiar. So when you go to Illusion, you're choosing Spectral Doppelganger. So really the spells I was looking for are Glittering Robe, because you're only weapon skill 3. And that's really, you've got to realise, weapon skill 3. And that's what they're fine against. So just making sure our -1 hit. So I'm going to keep myself alive a bit longer if I do get it's a bad thing. Column of Crystal. The idea is you're trying to control certain matchups. You put this in front of your dragon. I don't want to get charged this turn, so I'm going to put this here just to protect myself. You just use it to protect yourself. Special Doppelganger, obviously, because when you're in combat, you just want to make sure you're hitting. And the idea is if I get into their wizards block or wherever they're hiding, or if they've got another dragon, they can't stop my Dispel. And then I personally go for a Mirage. Yes, it's only 15, but the idea is you could potentially stage a bit further back. You could try and frenzy bait out with certain units, and then Mirage. This is just a really good kind of setup. So this is kind of the setup you're seeing from most top players. So Frederick in Germany, this is what he's running. This is very much his, I'm going to just push you. Oh, not Frederick, sorry. Carl in, Phil, sorry, in America. This is what he's run. This is what I kind of play. And it's good. It's strong. And it's that you've got 2 kind of beat sticks. My issue with the High Priest one, if it dies, you're taking loads of leadership. It doesn't really matter in a Grand Army as much because you've got an 18-inch ranged leadership 10 going out kind of thing, so you can protect yourself there. And worst case, if you really want to and you've got a certain thing, get a Royal Herald with a Battle Standard Bearer, because that means you're always re-rolling. So you just chuck them in there, you don't really care, you're just hiding them about. It's just these ideas there. But you're a leadership 10, so you're quite well protected. So this is a great kind of double dragon going into it. So that was kind of Grand Army. We looked at this kind of builds. Those double dragon that you kind of do in the double Tomb King Dragon, you could kind of also use that on Royal Host. Obviously, I would probably make one of mine, the re-rolling sixes one, to be my level 1, make him my Hierophant because he's just so much more survival, and use the other one as a bit more of a beat stick to go in. But if you're looking kind of now at the cult side, obviously one of the builds, and I think if you're going that, is going for that Necropone Dragon illusion with, where is it, Serpent Staff. But because we've got to be playing Double Dragon, we've got that, we can, instead of giving us the Warding Splint first off, I'm going to give myself the Talisman of Protection and Law Familiar. So this is kind of just your normal setup. 415 points, you make him a level 4, etc. like that. Okay, playing with one dragon's great. I was playing with a comp, so I wanted to try it out with this level 4 dragon illusion. Had to go for it because of those 4 spells, and it makes those really so important, and you need to get those spells off because it makes them so much stronger. Obviously, you're definitely in rare going to have a Casket of Souls. I would always say at least one for this, just so the idea that you're going to be able to give your High Priest potentially -2 in combat. So makes those things that when you're hitting you on 2s, it's 4s. Anything with weapon skill 3, hitting you on 5s, hitting you on 6s. It just makes you a lot more survivable. I was playing that with only 8 levels of wizardry, so I had to make him my general. So that was a bit of a scary thing. And if you are going to play cult and there's no cap on wizards, don't make him your general. I know the leadership kind of buff you think that's really cool, but your whole army's leadership 8 at this point basically, because you're mostly in core going to look at making either swarms, you Shabdi, Skeleton Horse Archers, they're already out of the game, probably somewhere else. If you're going for that Skeleton Archer blob, you're able to just put in a character that's higher leadership anyway, and then usually your backup character is a bit more defensive can play. Just because then you can use this, and if it dies, it's not the end of the game. So that's why I was a bit tentative with playing it on at a comp level. But if there's no comp, I think it's really kind of good. Obviously, potentially seeing another High Priest on Dragon. And I think at this point, and I think I kind of agree, go Necromancy. So the reason with Necromancy is because you've got 2 big terror monsters, and you could potentially push into this. So you could go Necromancy level 4 in your rare, in your special, go for a Necro Sphinx, go for double Necro Sphinx, double Dragon. You could kind of potentially, close enough, you might not have enough points to do this. But the idea is you've got loads of terror, and Necromancy is just there to buff it up. So if you're after a current thing, you could still potentially get -3 on the Necromancy. So obviously you Spirit Leech it, you Spiritual Vortex it, and they've got to take a terror test for each thing that charges them. So if you double go in with your High Priest Dragon, you can your High Priest on Dragon, you can potentially make them run away. What I would look to potentially do on this this one here, if you're playing the Double Dragon, once again, Warding Splint has to be there. Okay, it just makes your life a little bit more protectable. But then it's kind of, what do you want on here for yourself? So I personally, just give yourself something to stop a potential Green Knight coming into you. Because I think Ruby Ring is one of the best things in the game. It just helps with that, getting a Ruby Ring on this. And this is the one that, because this one is the one you make your general, you keep this one a little bit further back. Kind of make it a bit more bounce around, a bit more survivable. So you can shoot at range with Ruby Ring. You can shoot off with your Necromancy spells, etc. But potentially, I still want a BSB with Amulet of the Serpent. So for me, that's me done. Because I've only got 15 more points. I can maybe find something else in here for 15 points. I don't know if there is anything else. Maybe just a Biting Blade. Give yourself that little bit of magical attacks if in combat. So, as I say, Green Knight, Spiritual Host, Spirit Host, whatnot. You can kind of try and stop them there. Because what you don't want to do is get trapped and then just be stuck there all game. So that's something I would potentially look to go for. Or even 5 points, Burning Blade. Just get yourself magical attacks. It's not a lot of attacks, but it's enough to deal with those. We're seeing on the vampire counts, you're seeing a lot of Spirit Hosts at the moment. I'd say this is the kind of setup if I was going Cults Double Dragon. Personally, I don't run this, and potentially I should give it a try, because playing with the Dragon was fun. and he was getting in there. But because I had to play it as my general, because of how the comp was, I had to put 4 levels on my level on my illusion. So I had a level 3 elementalism. Kind of moved away from that. But an uncomp thing, you could probably get away with double dragon here, and I personally would go for something like necromancy. And the idea is you're not using the priest itself to kill, you're just making it a bit tough to get rid of. But the key thing to remember though, with a high priest, you are only T4 base, and the necro bone dragon only gives you +1 wounds. So you are +1 toughness. So you are T5 8 wounds. So this is where I'm a bit hesitant with playing with these, because they are quite... You've got triple save, great. You've got 4-5-5-5, you've got 5-5-5 on the other one. But poison shooting can potentially get through it. It's only 8 wounds. The big thing in Cult, though, is I can res up 6 wounds between these 3 guys, just to keep myself a little bit more alive. Potentially what you could do is drop this second dragon and just go for 2 more level 4s. Go for double elementalism. This is probably what I would look at. Just so, now I've got 8 wounds that I can res up on my priest. Kind of thing. Just to keep this guy alive. And once again, he is not my general. You make one of the ones on foot a general. You give him Ruby Ring. And you kind of run around. Kind of thing. But I think this is the best combat dragon wizard you can get. Strength 5, doppelganger. You're going to get doppelganger off every time, unless you roll a double 1 or versus a puppet, because when you need it, you just make sure you're close to swarms, or you move your swarms up with reserve move, and their normal moves are 10 wounds up, 10 inches up, and you just take what you need. You get to that +7, +8 if the casket is nearby. But yeah, that's how I would run it in Cult potentially, just so you've got a fighty wizard to kind of protect yourself, and then you've got two level 4s to deal with kind of the rest of the control, and then a level 1 to go in your poison block. Because I do think poison block, for the package of, what, 370, it can potentially take down everything. It's hard to grind away. Everyone's scared of it, potentially, even if it doesn't get out much output. So, yeah. So that is the Tomb King's Dragons, and the kind of the rough builds I would look to go for if you're going kind of that Tomb King Grand Army, or even the Royal Host with those double Tomb King Dragons, or if you're going to kind of the Mortuary Cult kind of way with playing with the dragon. It's just that if you are playing the Mortuary Cult Dragon, just make sure that if you're only playing the one dragon, don't make it your general, because if that goes down, we are only leadership 8 across the board. And obviously, certain things don't get to use it, and everything just starts to crumble. So that's what I was really afraid of last time. But I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you found that interesting. I'll see you on the next one. Ta-ra!